very angry with you tonight.
Oh, my.
I know. We have some agreements
First
on
time?
the...
Is that first time ever?
No, not the first time ever.
You should be nice to your guests.
You said don't threaten Iran. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, is this the same Iran that is funding Hezbollah, a terror group, $100 million a year? The same Iran that is providing troops to kill American soldiers and providing the IEDs that are killing American soldiers, and we shouldn't threaten them back?
Let me answer it with a question. Do you know who...
You be the host.
Do you know who kills the most by suicide terrorism in Iraq? Saudis. Over 50% are Saudis. They're in there. They're infiltrating a lot more than Iran.
You're distracting from the original question.
You should be talking about Saudi.
Wait a minute. We can talk about Saudi Arabia's support of terrorism over the years. No, the issue I asked you, you said tonight in this debate, don't threaten Iran. Iran is funding the IEDs that are being used to kill...
You have proof of that. There's no proof.
There's absolutely proof of it. It's been chronicled all over the place.
Our CIA does not have proof.
Wait a minute. We have found Iranian weaponry all over Iraq. We have Iranian troops inside of Iraq. We have Iran is funding Hezbollah to the tune of $100 million a year.
In a way, they have more justification than we do to be in Iraq. They're the next door neighbor. This is like, what if Russia was in Mexico? Do you think we'd have a right to be annoyed by that? We're in their backyard. We're 6,000 miles away. We invaded that country.
I shouldn't have to educate you about this, but if you take in the history of when they invaded Kuwait and were raping and pillaging Kuwait.
Who did?
And Iraq did. And that we went in, and we had a ceasefire agreement. We had UN resolution after resolution. He wouldn't abide by it, so we had no alternative.
You got your history. You have your history.
My history is exactly right.
All screwed up.
No, I'll educate you.
Because they were making progress. They turned it down. They chased the UN inspectors out, and the whole works.
All right. The only other thing that I wanted to get into. All right. You talk about you want to eliminate. Let's go through the departments you want to eliminate. The IRS.
Sure.
CIA.
You like
Hang on a second. No, not really. The CIA you want to eliminate.
Well, they do a lot of mischief. You know.
What other departments would you want to eliminate that relate to national security?
Education.
Get rid of it
Congressman,
completely.
you said something very interesting during this debate. You said you're the anti-war, you're representing by being the anti-war Republican, traditional Republican value.
Position, right.
Every other Republican has it wrong.
But they've only been wrong since the year 2000. Do you remember when Bosnia came up and Somalia? 80% of the Republicans voted against that intervention. How did Bush win the election? Yeah. He ran on a humble... I'm running on Bush's foreign policy, a humble foreign policy.
Ronald Reagan, when he left Lebanon after the barracks disaster, and was he called a cut and runner by the very people who now say Democrats are, like me, are cut and runners because you want to get out of Iraq?
And you know what he said? He says, I finally realized how irrational these people were, and he says, I changed my foreign policy. That's what he wrote in his memoir. So he finally said, they've been fighting too long, it's totally irrational, so he at least had the good sense to leave.
So you agree with me on foreign policy, you agree with Sean on economics and a whole bunch of other things, but if we given that diversity, how do you get the Republican nomination if you're not really saying the things that most of the base actually believes who are going to vote in the Republican primary?
I have to remind them of their history, because this is what they used to believe. They used to be conservatives. They used to want to balance budgets. They used to be against the Department of Education. They used to be against the wars.
What happened?
You know, but they've lost their way. They've been taken over by ex-Democrats who are the neoconservatives. They came over and believes in entitlement, and they believe in war. They picked the two worst parts.
But how do you get the nomination given your positions, which are not at all in line with the people who are resonating in the polls with the Republicans who are voting in the primaries that you need to get elected?
In a place like New Hampshire, you just invite the independents and you explain this to the Republican base, and a lot of them will support me on these issues, as well as the individuals who respond to this, because they're sick and tired. 70% of the people are sick and tired of this war. So in open primaries, we have a very, very good chance. The Republican Party is getting so small that you have to build the party in order to
Can I add one point, Alan, if I may? Ronald Reagan, Congressman, confronted the evil empire in his time, and I don't think you would say he was, quote, a neoconservative. Ronald Reagan defined conservatism in our time, and the world was better and safer for him standing up to that evil in our time.
He never invaded a Soviet country.
It was a different situation, but he was willing to build up our defenses. He was willing to pursue SDI, walk away from Reykjavik.
He walked away from Lebanon and said we had no place in the Middle East at that time. Was he called a cut and runner by Republicans?
Ronald Reagan built up the military through strength.
Did he
and they
cut
were
and
afraid
run
to
from
confront
Lebanon?
him. Not the same
The
thing.
big difference is Iraq didn't have a nuclear weapon, neither does Iran.
Iran may have a nuclear weapon,
well,
and then we...
How about Pakistan? They have one, and
Listen,
they don't even
they say
follow
they want to
it.
annihilate Israel. They are funding Hezbollah, but I got to
Yeah, but the Soviets wanted to
All right.
annihilate us as well, too, but we
It's
didn't
always good
invade
to
them.
spar with you, Congressman.